Welcome to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement's YouTube and podcast channel. Ever get that sinking feeling when you pour your heart into a job application, hit send, and then
Crickets.
yeah, crickets? Today's deep dive is all about tackling that frustrating silence after you apply for a job. We're going to unpack some really insightful advice from the EHEA itself.
It's definitely a common experience.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, it can really knock your confidence. But what's interesting is that the EAAE, a well-respected organization in higher education and professional development, actually encourages you to break the silence strategically.
Okay, that's surprising. I always thought following up was like a big no-no.
Right.
So how do they suggest we go about it?
Well, they've laid out 3 key tips, which we can think of as challenges
Okay.
to help you stand out in the job market.
I love a good challenge. Hit me with the first one.
Challenge number 1 is all about professionalism.
Okay.
It might seem obvious, but when you're feeling anxious or ignored, it's easy to let that frustration creep into your communication.
I've totally been there.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure we're hitting the right note?
Think of it this way. Every interaction, even if it's just a follow-up email, is a chance to build a professional relationship. You're showcasing your communication skills and how you handle yourself, which matters even if you don't land this specific job.
So it's almost like planting seeds for future opportunities, right?
Exactly. Now, on to challenge number 2.
Okay.
Brevity.
Brevity.
You've got to remember that recruiters are incredibly busy. They might be sifting through hundreds of applications,
Yeah.
maybe even thousands.
So how do we make sure our follow-up actually gets read?
It's all about respecting their time. Imagine you're that recruiter. What would make you want to read an email?
Something short.
Something concise and to the point, right?
Yeah.
Avoid lengthy explanations or going off on tangents. Instead, focus on the essential information.
Makes sense. Okay, now I'm really intrigued by challenge number 3.
Yes.
The EAET calls it becoming a mind reader. What does that even mean in the context of a job application?
This is where you can really demonstrate your understanding of the role in the company. It's about anticipating what information would be most valuable to the recruiter.
So instead of just sending a generic checking-in email, we need to offer something more.
Precisely. Did you come across some news about the company that reinforces your interest?
Okay.
Did you tailor your application to highlight very specific skills that directly address their needs? That's the kind of extra detail you can offer in your follow-up.
That's brilliant. So it's not just about reminding them that you applied.
Right.
It's about showing that you've really thought out how you can contribute.
Exactly. And it demonstrates a level of proactivity and genuine interest that most candidates don't bother with.
Right.
That's where you can really shine.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our 3 challenges laid out in front of us.
Yes.
But before we dive deeper into each one, I want to hear from you, our listeners. Have you ever successfully used a follow-up email to land a job? Or maybe to at least get a response?
Good question.
Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your experiences and maybe even learn a few tips from each other.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, now let's get back to those challenges. Starting with challenge number 1, professionalism.
Okay.
This seems pretty straightforward on the surface, but I think there's more to it than meets the eye. What are some common pitfalls that job seekers might fall into when trying to be professional in their follow-up communications?
Well, one common mistake is being overly casual or familiar. You know, trying to be buddy-buddy with the recruiter, like you've known them for years. It's important to maintain a professional tone, even if you feel like you've established a rapport through previous interactions.
Right, so even if you had like a really great conversation during an interview.
Exactly. You still want to keep it professional in your follow-up emails.
No emoji.
Probably best to avoid those, yeah.
Okay, good to know. What else should we watch out for?
Another thing to be mindful of is your tone. You know, it's natural to feel anxious or even a little frustrated when you're waiting to hear back, but you don't want that to come across in your writing.
Yeah, I can see how that could easily happen.
Yeah, you want to sound enthusiastic and engaged, but also respectful and understanding of their time.
Okay, so striking that balance is key.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance.
So we've talked about what not to do, but what are some specific things that job seekers can do to ensure their follow-up communications are professional and polished?
Well, first and foremost, make sure your email is well-written and error-free. You know, proofread it carefully before hitting send.
Oh yeah, that's crucial.
A typo or grammatical error can make a bad impression.
It's like showing up to an interview with a stain on your shirt.
Exactly. It shows a lack of attention to detail.
Okay, so proofread. What else?
You also want to make sure your email is formatted properly.
Good.
Use a clear subject line that includes the job title and your name,
Okay.
and address the recipient by their proper title.
Got it. So basically treat it like any other important professional correspondent.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
want to put your best foot forward.
All right, so we've covered the basics of professionalism, but let's take it a step further.
Okay.
What are some ways that job seekers can go above and beyond to really impress the recruiter with their communication skills?
One way to stand out is to personalize your follow-up emails. Don't just send a generic message that could be sent to anyone.
Right.
Take the time to mention something specific that you learned during the interview process or something that you admire about the company.
So like if they mentioned they were working on a particular project.
Yeah, exactly. You could say something like, I was really interested to hear about your work on, and then mention the project. It shows that you are paying attention and that you're genuinely interested in the role.
That's a great tip. And it's a good way to keep the conversation going.
Exactly. It shows that you're not just sending a mass email.
Right.
You're actually engaged.
Yeah, you're invested in the opportunity. Okay, so personalization is key. What other strategies can job seekers use to really make their communications shine?
Another thing you can do is offer something of value in your follow-up emails.
Okay, like what?
Well, it could be a link to a relevant article or blog post,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you have a sample of your work that you can share that's related to the job requirements.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Anything that shows that you're thinking beyond just getting the job and that you're actually interested in contributing to the company.
So it's like you're already showing initiative.
Exactly. You're demonstrating your value even before you've been hired.
I love it. So by focusing on professionalism and adding those extra touches, job seekers can really set themselves apart from the competition.
Absolutely. It's all about making a positive and memorable impression.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground on challenge number 1.
Yes, we have.
But we've still got 2 more challenges to tackle, so stay tuned as we continue to explore the EAA's advice on navigating the silence after you apply for a job.
I'm excited to keep going.
Me too. It's like you're reading my mind. I'm starting to see how these seemingly simple tips can make a huge difference.
They really can. And the EAEA makes another great point. Not every job application is going to be a home run.
Oh, tell me about it. It can be so discouraging when you face rejection after rejection.
But that's where the real value of these tips comes in. Even if a particular opportunity doesn't work out, you're honing your communication skills and building good habits for the long term.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking back to my own experiences, and I can't help but wonder how some of those applications might have turned out differently if I'd followed this advice. What about you? Have you ever used a follow-up to turn things around in your own career?
Earlier in my career, I was definitely guilty of just passively waiting to hear back.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember one instance where I was really passionate about a role and I decided to take a chance. I sent a brief follow-up email thanking the hiring manager for their time and highlighting a recent article about the company's expansion into a new market.
Ooh, that sounds like a great example of challenge number 3 in action.
What
happened?
Well, I didn't get that particular job. But the hiring manager was so impressed with my initiative that they kept my resume on file. A few months later, they reached out to me about a different position that was an even better fit for my skills.
Wow. That's a perfect example of how a thoughtful follow-up can pay off in unexpected ways.
It really is. And it underscores the fact that this advice isn't just about job hunting. It's about mastering the art of effective communication in any professional setting.
I love that. You're saying that these job application tips are actually a microcosm of how we should be communicating in all areas of our careers. Tell me more about that.
Think about it. Being concise, being mindful of your audience's time, and offering valuable information. These are essential skills, whether you're writing an email, presenting a proposal, or even just participating in a meeting.
It's like the EAAA has given us a secret weapon for navigating the professional world.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important point for our listeners. Even in the face of job application silence, you have the power to shift the dynamic.
Yeah.
You can choose to be proactive, you can choose to be professional, and you can choose to be persistent, all while honing skills that will serve you well throughout your career.
So what does this all boil down to for our listeners who are out there navigating the job market?
It means that silence doesn't have to be the end of the story. It could be an invitation to showcase your initiative, your professionalism, and your understanding of the role. It could even be the key to unlocking unexpected opportunities down the road.
Beautifully said. And I think it's a great reminder that even though job hunting can be a tough and often disheartening process, There are things we can do to take control and make ourselves stand out. We don't have to just sit back and wait. We can be active participants in shaping our own career destinies.
Absolutely. And remember, even if one opportunity doesn't pan out, the skills you develop along the way will continue to benefit you.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today. Big thanks to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement for providing such insightful and actionable advice.
It's been a pleasure diving into these tips with you.
Me too. And to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you the tools and confidence to navigate the sometimes choppy waters of job hunting. Remember, silence doesn't always mean rejection. It could simply be an opportunity to showcase your initiative and professionalism. Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media. Until next time. And sometimes it's an opportunity to practice patience too,
Absolutely.
which can be a challenge in itself. But I think the takeaway here is that we have more agency in this process than we often realize.
I completely agree. It's easy to feel powerless when you're waiting to hear back. But these tips remind us that we can take charge and shape our own narratives.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that these skills aren't just applicable to job hunting. They're valuable in any area of life where communication is key.
Absolutely. Whether you're negotiating a raise, pitching an idea, or even resolving a conflict, the principles of clarity, conciseness, and offering value are universally applicable.
It's like a masterclass in effective communication, disguised as job hunting advice.
Precisely.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more empowered to tackle those job applications now.
Me too. It's all about shifting our mindset and approaching the process strategically.
A huge thank you to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement for these game-changing insights. We hope this deep dive has given you the tools and confidence to navigate the job market with a renewed sense of purpose. Remember, silence doesn't always mean rejection. It could simply be an opportunity to showcase your initiative and professionalism. Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media. Until next time.